Greetings, metaphysicians. This is episode 130, Transcendence. I had a transcendent moment recently while traveling, and I share it on this episode, and it just got me thinking these last few weeks all about this word, this idea, this concept of transcending and transcendence, and what that means and how it brings us closer to the divine. So listen in and enjoy the episode.
You're listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to the Let's Get Metaphysical podcast. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci, here to remind you that you are a divine spiritual being having a temporary human experience here on lovely planet Earth. Make the most of it. This is season 7, Heaven on Earth, and this is episode 130, Transcendence. And why did I want to talk about transcendence today? What is transcendence? I am currently traveling in Northern Europe and have been for the last couple of weeks. And a little bit ago, I had an experience of transcendence. And it got me thinking about that whole word, what it means, why we experience transcendence, how that happens, when it happens, why it happens. I don't have all the answers, obviously, but that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode. So let's jump right into it. Are you ready? Let's get meta. I suppose so that we're all kind of on the same page, I'm going to share a little bit about what transcendence is defined as. So the character of being transcendent, elevation, loftiness, the act of surpassing usual limits, the state of being beyond the range of normal perception. And that's the one that I'm going to focus on the most. That's kind of what I'm talking about, that definition of it for this episode, the state of being beyond the range of normal perception. But it's also defined as the concept of climbing or going beyond. Transcendence means going beyond a limit or surpassing a boundary. And let's see, this one says the divine is said to transcend humanity, which is kind of what this podcast is all about. It's reminding us that there is something else that's beyond, right? There's something that is surpassing this human experience, which is why I use the top of every episode to remind everyone that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. There is something else. We are something that goes beyond humanity. We are divine on some level. And transcendence can also mean exceeding usual limits, surpassing, extending, lying beyond the limits of ordinary experience, being beyond the limits of all possible experience and knowledge. So I think we have a fairly decent idea of what we're talking about when we say the word transcendence. And so I wanted to share my most recent experience of what I would call transcending or transcendence, or I transcended, and maybe a few other ones as well. And then we'll get into whatever comes through on this particular topic. Wow, I haven't done my invocation yet. I'll do that now. Masters and angels, we request your presence, your guidance, your love and support, and your knowledge and wisdom through this episode on transcendence. Please allow me to know the truth speak the truth, become the truth, and be the truth. Please let any relevant, useful, inspiring, elevating information come through this episode. And please allow this episode to reach whoever needs to hear it. Thank you with gratitude and full faith. Bless creation. Interesting placement for my prayer, but that's okay. I was just going to get into the last time I felt this concept of transcending, this state. I guess it's a state of transcending, transcendence. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I was in Tallinn, Estonia, the capital of Estonia, and I was visiting a Russian Orthodox church. And I just have to say, I really love visiting places of worship. It doesn't really matter the religion or philosophy or practice. I think it's really interesting to see all of these different pathways that are exploring God or the divine or the all that is, the source, however you like to call that. But it's interesting to see the buildings, the physical, humans-built structures that humans created to worship this thing that is beyond, this thing that is divine, right? So, first of all, I love visiting places like that. Second of all, I have found on this trip that I really enjoy Russian Orthodox churches. They are, I can't speak for all of them, of course, but the ones I've been in lately are incredibly beautiful, structurally, design-wise, decoration-wise. I love shiny things, and there's lots of gold and just shimmery, shiny things. For some reason, I really enjoy icons, and there's lots of icons in Russian Orthodox churches. So anyways, that's just to say that I was already feeling really lovely in this particular church when I walked in. And there happened to be a ceremony going on, or a service. I'm sorry, I'm not sure the right terminology for Russian Orthodox, but there was a service going on when I happened to walk in, and tourists were still allowed to walk in. We just had to be silent, obviously, and respectful. And everyone stands during those services, so that was interesting as well. But they had a choir, and I can't tell you where they were because the shape of the building, they could have been anywhere. It sounded like they were it sounded like the voices, the music was coming from the walls itself. I'm sure they were singing in Russian. I didn't understand what they were saying, but it didn't matter. The sound was so beautiful, and the vibration of it that carried within the walls of that structure, like just the way it was built, it was like it was built for singing. It was like built for this choir to sing because of the way that the sound reverberated off of all the different angles and walls and domes. It like the sound just permeated everything. And it was so beautiful and inspiring that I would use the terminology that I transcended. And what does that mean for me? It felt like I left my mind. It felt like I even left my body to some extent. And it was this feeling of going upward, which is interesting because that's kind of exactly what the definition is, right? Going beyond a limit, surpassing a boundary, transcending. The divine is said to transcend humanity, exceeding the usual limits, of normal perception. It just felt like I was like going up, rising up past whatever normal boundary, whatever normal limitation I had, whether that was a limitation of my mind, my limitation of my body, even my emotions, even just normal sensory limitations or boundaries. This sound, these voices, and the reverberations, and honestly, it was just the vibration, right? The vibration of this song or these voices just lifted. It just lifted me. I had tears. I was very, very high, like a natural high, right? And it's such an amazing thing that we have the ability, we have the capability to become high, to become in that state, that transcendent state, without the use of any other substances to get us there. I mean, this is without even, chanting or meditating or oming or something like that too. No plants, no drugs, no alcohol, no anything. Just this vibration, this sound. And I would say that the vibration of the place itself was obviously incredibly conducive to this feeling. I would not be surprised if I was the only person in there that was transcending at that moment. I mean, I would be surprised if I was. I'm sure other people were feeling what I was feeling too. And it's just kind of incredible that you don't need to understand the words. You don't need to have an outside source to feel like that. It's just that. It's just possible like that. And so I was left high for the rest of the day. And it was amazing. And the word that came into my mind was transcendence. Or I guess more appropriately, I was in my mind thinking I'm transcending, or I have transcended. And even though that was a few weeks ago, I wanted to do an episode on this. This is the moment to do it. So, and then it made me think of, when were these other times? Were there other times that I have experienced something like that? And there have been, but I really had to kind of think about it and then settle in. Well, was that transcending? Was this transcending? What does transcending mean? I want to look into this more. What circumstances have to be around for us to be able to transcend? And so I would say, again, that I'm not an expert on this topic, but when I examine my own personal experiences, a few different times come to mind. And I was looking to see if they have any similarities within them. And there's probably more moments that I'm not even, I don't know. I think some of them are so fleeting, they're so quick, they don't last all day, right? Like this one put me in this state for a whole day. But we probably have moments. We probably have moments of transcendence, even if they only last a few seconds, and then maybe we don't even realize it. Or maybe we appreciate it and then something else comes in so quickly that we don't have the chance to remember it or consider it more. I used to go on canoe trips to the Boundary Waters and the Quetico Provincial Park in northern Minnesota and Canada there when I was younger. And I used to lead those canoe trips as well through a camp that I worked at. And there were several times there, but I can think of one just in particular, just being at one of the campsites, laying in a hammock that we had set up. The sun is setting. This campsite happened to be next to a waterfall. This is in the Quetico. And just all the sounds and the energy of that place. There's just no electronics anywhere. Nothing would work anyway. There's no wires. There's no airplanes. There's no cars. There's no anything that turns on or off, really. So you just have these natural sounds. You have the setting sun. Once the sun sets, you have the most incredible stars that I've ever seen at that time anyway. And I remember feeling high in that way, just naturally. And I didn't know the word transcendence then, but when I was thinking about it after this most recent experience, I was thinking that was probably a moment of transcendence. And there's probably several that happened there, surrounded by nature, listening to the vibrations of those natural things that can be found on this planet. There's another time that I've definitely referenced probably several times on this podcast before, but it was a time when I was living in Senegal, West Africa, and we were visiting a place in eastern Senegal where there's a huge baobab tree. And I think I didn't even put it together until, I don't know, a decade later, maybe longer, that the baobab tree might have had everything to do with this experience that followed because of its just depth and its power and its ancientness. Maybe there was beautiful beings living within that tree, or was that tree? I don't know. But leaving that place and walking down this mountain from where that community was the first time that I would say I felt what I would call unity consciousness. And it was this moment of looking out over the horizon and like suddenly everything I could see and feel and know how everything was connected. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And I would consider that a transcending moment as well, because it went beyond, it went beyond this normal boundary of what I'm used to experiencing and feeling. It went beyond the limit. It surpassed this normal experience, this typical traditional human experience. And so that would be a transcendent moment, a moment of transcendence. And I've definitely had that several times since then. And that one also probably lasted, that one might have lasted the longest. It lasted about 2 days, that whole feeling. It was so very powerful. But again, I didn't know that word, this word of transcendence at that time. And so, I could keep going and sharing these, my own experiences or whatever. But the idea here is that I'm wondering if, and I'm hoping that we've all had these moments, these moments of it going beyond. And that's kind of what this podcast is all about anyway. It's talking about the metaphysical, right? Above the physical, the outer limits of physicality. And that it's just tied hand in hand with the idea of transcendence. But transcendence doesn't, these ones that I'm describing, the one that just happened with sound, right? It happened with music, with singing. The other ones have happened in nature and feeling really close to the earth, which is kind of interesting too. Like, just that, I don't know, that dichotomy of feeling something so divine, but while feeling so connected to this physical planet. But I think I've had those moments while playing sports too. Like, you get in this rhythm and you just go beyond this usual normal human physical limit, even if it's just for a moment, even if you score a goal or make a shot or dodge an opponent or whatever. So like sports, this can happen, in music, this can happen, in acting, right? On stage or film, that can happen. And certainly in singing and music performance, in works of art and works of architecture. I think the point is that there's not a limit, incidentally, of where and when this can happen. This transcendent feeling, this going beyond. And I'm so curious what other people's experiences have been on this topic, especially those that happen without drugs, plant medicine, alcohol. Like, how did that happen? What was the state? Was it adrenaline? Was it because you're doing something athletic, or being in nature, or hearing something? I think there's so many different ways to experience this, and it's so interesting what connects them. Like, what is it that helps to spark that? And then moving further, what can we do to allow for the state to come in more often? How can we, or can we purposefully invoke a state of transcendence or set up the conditions to transcend? I think that's what people do with meditation a lot. In my community, a lot of people, I think, would say that they do transcend when they meditate. And some of them have been meditating for so long that it's easy for them. 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years of meditation and more. I have not reached the ability to do that yet. I meditate every day, and I have been probably for closing in on 10 years now. But I just have not reached that place where some of my friends and community members do that regularly, transcend when meditating every day. So certainly that is a way to train yourself to do that. But for us, I'd say quote unquote normal humans who don't necessarily meditate every day or have that kind of way to do it. And maybe if you are someone who doesn't want to use a different substance to have this experience, then what are the conditions that help put us in that state? What conditions kind of clear the path and allow for that to happen? And some of those things, that I've said are being in a beautiful place, whether that's a beautiful building or structure or beautiful nature, being in nature in general, just feeling those vibrations of the earth, which incidentally are so connected to that of the divine. They reflect the divine. Perfect nature reflects perfect divinity. It is perfect divinity. And so I do believe that being in nature would help us to experience this transcendent state. Certain vibrations, certain sounds, certain openness, maybe, within yourself. Some of these things seem to be keys that unlock different parts of our physical or mental bodies and fields, so that it's like a door opens and you can rise up, you can go beyond that limit, beyond that boundary, and surpass what is normal, surpass the mundane. And so, of course, as it won't be any surprise to anyone listening, we can also ask for this. I actually haven't asked for this yet, but, my last episode is Ask and Receive. And I don't think that we use that tool enough. As I stated in the previous episode, this is a tool, is being able to ask for things that we want or need. And this is a perfect opportunity to request to be able to be in this state, if this is something you're interested in, because it's such a beautiful feeling. And I do believe that this state does inherently bring us closer to the divine, closer to what actually is, closer to our true nature, closer to our souls, closer to God's source, the all that is. And so asking to be put in a state, to be placed in a state, to rise up to a state of transcendence, I think just makes sense if that's something that we're looking for, to be closer to the divine. So a sample request could be something like, Masters and Angels, I request that you remove any boundary or limitations within me that prevent me from transcending. Please help me to transcend whenever it would be useful for me to feel closer to the divine. Thank you with gratitude and full faith. Something like that, right? Just asking that they remove anything that is in the way of going beyond. Removing any, these could be old fears and anxieties and tapes in the subconscious mind that we're not even conscious of from past lifetimes or from something in this lifetime, other experiences. So asking to remove anything that's blocking us from transcending, and then actually just asking to transcend, to be put in these moments, to have these moments arise and arrive in our lives where we can feel that closeness. Because I think that the whole point of this episode is that when that happens, you know the divine. There's no question. It's not something you can make up because you have transcended. You've gone beyond your mind. So you can't think or talk yourself out of it. And it's these moments, it's really these moments that are the essence of this entire podcast, this entire show, this thing. It's these moments that I'm trying to, back when I was interviewing people, and I might continue to do that soon, pick that up again. But it's these moments I was trying to ask about, essentially, like, what has made you transcend? What has made you understand that there and know that there is divinity, that divinity is there and all around us? What has shown you that? What experiences open that door for you to understand that there is more than this moment, that this mundane material reality that we are currently in most of the time, unless maybe when we're sleeping or other. And so I'm going to leave it there for today. Let's have bonus content. I have clearing to clear anything that's in the way of us getting in the state of transcendence or transcending. Why not? You can find that at patreon.com/letsgetmeta. You can become a patron angel of the podcast and have access to all of my bonus content. And see if you can't make it easier, make it more simple and frequent to transcend. Thank you so much for listening. I'll leave it there. Stay positive, stay safe, and stay meta.
The Let's Get Metaphysical podcast is an Up and Awaken production and is produced and hosted by Renata Maniaci. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. If you are ready to raise your vibration, you might enjoy our free Let's Get Meta Master Clearing. To receive the Master Clearing or to learn more about the podcast, visit letsgetmeta.com. The Let's Get Meta podcast is inspired by angels and supported by angels. If you would like to be a patron angel to the podcast, visit patreon.com/letsgetmeta. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.